We continue our coverage with Action News reporter Chad Pradelli. He is live in Port Richmond at a scene that officials describe as a disastrous mess. Chad.
Matt, still very much an active scene. Obviously a devastating tragedy last night. We're about 200 yards from the wreckage. I just spoke with police a short time ago. They tell me 2 of the deceased have been taken from the wreckage. Now, right now, recovery crews are trying to have a crane brought in to get to the other dead. As we move forward, obviously, it's going to be a time to mourn those who died in this wreckage and also find out what caused this derailment.
The startled look of passengers with blood dripping from their gaping wounds said it all. This was a mass casualty event. Just moments earlier, passenger train 188 bound from Washington, D.C. to New York derailed in Port Richmond. Passengers say the typical hum of the tracks was interrupted by the derailment. For a second, there was silence, then chaos. One passenger said it sounded like shopping carts crashing into one another.
Was there any warning at all before this happened?
No, it happened in seconds. So I don't know what happened. I have no idea, but I'm okay, and I'm praying that everyone else is. I don't have a scrape at all.
Emergency responders flooded the scene. 65 of the 243 aboard the train were transported to area hospitals. Triage centers were set up for the influx of passengers.
65 transports, still 6 considered critical, and unfortunately confirmed 5 individuals deceased.
The incident has been placed under control, so we're starting the family reunification process. We're working with Amtrak, we're working with our hospitals, we're working with all of our human services agencies.
So far, the cause of the derailment is still under investigation. The Department of Homeland Security is on scene, and the National Transportation Safety Board will lead the investigation. Governor Tom Wolf arrived from Harrisburg and said the state is ready to assist.
Anything the state can do to help, we stand ready to do that. The state police are here to help.
And it's unclear how many of the dead and injured are from the Philadelphia area. Mayor Michael Nutter tells us that it's likely that most are from Washington, D.C. or New York. And those people who are looking for loved ones and haven't been able to get in touch with them should call Amtrak. I'm live in Port Richmond. Chad Pradelli, Channel 6 Action News.
Thank you so much, Chad.
All right, and you just heard the mayor talk about the number of people taken to the hospital. At least 140 people have taken that trip to be evaluated or treated. Action News reporter Catherine Scott is live at Hahnemann in Center City with the latest there. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Tam. Dozens of people were taken here to Hahnemann alone. 140 people at least were taken to area hospitals to be treated or evaluated. We do know that 6 people are in critical condition. Of the people aboard that train last night, 5 people have died.
Basically, the train tilted over and rolled.
243 people were on board the Amtrak Northeast Regional Train 188 heading to New York when it derailed around 9:30 last night in Port Richmond.
There are so many people worse off than me right now.
This was declared a level 3 mass casualty incident. The fire department says 18 medic units were brought on scene. Last night, 6 people were taken to the hospital in critical condition. Those with less serious injuries could be seen climbing out of police wagons or exiting SEPTA buses. Some were still carrying their luggage. Nearby residents rushed to the tracks to see what they could do to help.
As soon as we walked onto the tracks, there were already ambulance crews on the scene.
The train originated in Washington, D.C. and had left 30th Street Station minutes prior to the crash. Several people were carried from the train on stretchers. Others were able to walk on their own but were limping or appeared unsteady. And as you can see, people's injuries varied in severity, so some people have already gone home. Others are still being treated at these 4 area hospitals. We are live in Center City. Catherine Scott, Channel 6 Action News.
Thank you, Catherine. We will have continuing coverage of this accident right here live on Action News, plus on 6abc.com and our 6ABC mobile apps. Stay tuned for more updates from the scene on what may have caused this crash and on the casualty toll.
Coming up, of course, we'll have more on this deadly derailment and disaster. Let's go on over to Chopper 6 HD Live, which is over the scene here in Port Richmond. You can see the mess, the mangled wreckage. Now, we are told that NTSB investigators are on their way there. We also know 5 people are dead and dozens more hurt after this derailment. We've got more live coverage coming up. Karen.
We're live right now in Port Richmond on I-95. Southbound traffic headed towards Center City. We're going to have updates on the implications of this train derailment as you try to head to work. Details on that when Action News comes right back.
Welcome back. Chopper 6 HD is live and above the scene here in Port Richmond. The curve where an Amtrak train derailed around 9:30 last night. This was Amtrak 188 making its way from D.C. up to New York City. About 243 people on board. People describing a shaking and then a tipping, a rolling, and then just a scene of chaos. People, especially in the front of the train, having a difficult time, while people towards the back doing everything they could, people trying to get out of doors, out of windows. What we know right now, 5 people have died, 65 people are at the hospital. We've got 6 people who are in critical condition, and a lot of questions this morning. What happened here on this regular route? The NTSB will be at the scene this morning, and of course, we will continue our coverage.
Karen Rogers following the mass transit angle and also what's going on the roads.
Yeah, as you're in that area in Port Richmond, we have just a number of closures, as you can imagine, with emergency workers on the scene, and no telling at this point how long these roads will be closed. Frankfurt Avenue is shut down between Torresdale and between Castor. Also seeing portions of Pike, Buckia, Sedgley, Butler, Corral, all shut down through this area. So you need to watch out for this. You can use Frankfurt Avenue, you can use Aramingo Avenue or Richmond Street to I-95. All options right now to get around the closures centered all around the Port Richmond area. And what about the rails? How is this affecting first SEPTA? The Trenton line is not running today, and it is possible it may not even run the rest of the week. So we'll have to continue to watch this. If you take that, you're going to need to find another way. Chestnut Hill. Now, Chestnut Hill West line will also not run, but Chestnut Hill East line is expected to run, but with possible scheduling effects with that. So you may see other problems with that right now. So watch for that. Let's take a look at the Amtrak Northeast Corridor at this point. Amtrak at Northeast Corridor not running between Philadelphia and New York City, but running with a modified schedule between D.C. and Philadelphia, New York City and Boston, and New Jersey Transit honoring Amtrak tickets. So we have that cross-honoring program in effect. This is going to affect a lot of people throughout the Port Richmond area, and certainly if you're taking mass transit. Weather-wise, we're looking at 63 degrees waking up this morning. No weather-related problems impacting people out there in the rescue area, as well as when you're traveling with lots of sun and a high of 69, Matt and Tam.
Okay, Karen, thanks so much. Action News reporter Annie McCormick continues our live team coverage of the derailment disaster. She joins us live from 30th Street Station, where Annie, no Northeast Corridor tickets being issued today.
Matt, that's right. A lot of changes here today, but also a number of those people that you were talking about that were at the hospital that are now able to leave. Many of them are going to head here to 30th Street Station. First, what they will do is they will meet with the Red Cross. There they will check in so that Red Cross can take down their name so that they can be accounted for. From there, the Red Cross with other groups with Amtrak will be able to assist them so that they can head home by an alternate route, possibly by train, so that they can get to where they need to be. Now, we caught up with the Red Cross today to tell us what those passengers can expect when they get here.
We're working with Amtrak and working with the Office of Emergency Management to move a portion of that reception center here to 30th Street so that those that are looking for transportation home can come here. They can get the mental and emotional support and counseling they need here. We can also provide them with warm blankets and food and things, comfort food, to just kind of put them a little bit at ease.
Also at this hour inside 30th Street Station, a number of people who had trains after that fateful train who were also sitting here at Amtrak waiting to find out what to do. A number of them are now boarding buses, also heading to their final destination. Now, there is a modified Amtrak schedule today. Service provided between Washington and Philly, Harrisburg and Philly, and also New York and Boston. But there is no service between New York and Philadelphia. However, New Jersey Transit will honor Amtrak tickets between New York and Trenton. For now, we're live at 30th Street Station. Annie McCormick, Channel 6 Action News.
Okay, Annie, thank you for all of those details. It's now 4:16 and still ahead. A couple of local politicians were on train 188 when it derailed late last night. We'll hear from them when Action News comes right back.
And we will update what turned out to be an extremely dangerous accident call as Philadelphia police say a driver involved tried to use his car as a weapon. David.
Cooler air has arrived, so you were dressing the kids in jackets and long pants today. In fact, they might even want the hood up on the way in because it's not only cool but windy. We'll have your afternoon call and your day planner forecast coming up next.
Welcome back. We're continuing our coverage of the deadly derailment in the Port Richmond section of Philadelphia. NTSB officials are heading to the scene right now, and here's what we know at this moment. At least 5 people are dead, dozens more injured. Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter called the scene horrific. As of now, it seems many people on that train have still not been accounted for. More than 140 people went to hospitals to be evaluated or treated. 6 of them are critical. And at this moment, what kicked all of this off? What caused this derailment? That's the big question, and it still does not have an answer.
We want to talk about the implications for people trying to take mass transit, too. Let's show you what's running and what's not running right now. Amtrak's Northeast Corridor between Philadelphia and New York will not run. No service running. Between Washington and Philadelphia, Harrisburg and Philadelphia, New York and Boston, Amtrak will run on a modified schedule, and New Jersey Transit will honor Amtrak tickets between New York City and Trenton, so you can use New Jersey Transit instead. SEPTA Regional Rails, the Trenton line will not run, and they're saying likely not run through the day. Possibly it might not even run the rest of the week. Chestnut Hill West line will not run as well. East line, Chestnut Hill East line will run, and that could be a possible alternate for you, David.
All right, Karen, this morning we are starting out cool and a little bit breezy. 54 degrees in Fleetwood, Berks County, 56 in Quakertown, 61 in both Chester and Center City, and across the river in South Jersey, 63 in Buna, 61 in Hamilton, 60 in Cinnaminson, mid-60s down the shore, low 60s for the most part in Newcastle County, Delaware. If you're out running errands today, take a jacket this morning, certainly. 59 degrees by 9. Lots of sunshine, so you'll need the shades. Today's high is going to be 69 at 3 o'clock. Some urban centers might even hit 70 degrees. And by the way, there is also an enhanced danger of brush fires beginning and spreading today. So if you see anything smoldering out there, make sure you get on the phone and call 911 right away. Matt?
You got it, David. Thank you. Former Bucks County Congressman Patrick Murphy was on the train from Washington when it crashed last night. He tweeted out these pictures. Murphy was planning to get off at the Trenton stop and head home to Bucks County. He says he was on the middle of the train when he heard a bang. Then the train started wobbling and tipped over. Action News spoke to Murphy on the phone last night.
Obviously, a lot of mayhem. People were pretty banged up and a lot of blood, a lot of bleeding. I pulled myself up. The guy that I kind of landed on was okay. The guy next to him was completely passed out, not unconscious. So I grabbed him and popped him in the face a little bit. Said, buddy, buddy, buddy. And he came through. And
Murphy says Senator Tom Carper of Delaware was also on the same train but had gotten off safely in Wilmington before the crash. Stay with Action News on the air as we bring you more information and pictures from the scene. Plus, we will post any breaking developments on 6abc.com and our 6ABC News apps.
4 Philadelphia police officers are now out of the hospital. They were hit by a fleeing suspect who may have had a medical condition. Police say 46-year-old Rudolph Kite drove into officers yesterday in Olney and then took off. He then hit a police cruiser and more officers in West Oak Lane. Officers shot Kite in the chest, but he somehow managed to take off again. He finally collapsed at his home in West Oak Lane. He's now in critical condition. His girlfriend says she thinks medical conditions, perhaps a heart attack, may have caused the violent encounter. Jurors in the federal police corruption trial will be back today for a 4th day of deliberations. Yesterday, they told the judge that they were deadlocked against 6 Philadelphia officers. The judge instructed the jury to keep trying to reach a verdict on the 26-count indictment. The men are accused of planting evidence, making false arrests, and stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from drug suspects over 6 years. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Continuing to follow the catastrophe in Port Richmond. The National Transportation Safety Board says it is gathering information about last night's Amtrak train derailment in that section of Philadelphia. The NTSB says it is launching an investigative team. They will arrive later this morning. The area where this derailment occurred is known as Frankfort Junction. It has a big curve. 5 people have been confirmed dead, 6 critically injured, and a lot more in the hospital right now. The U.S. oil industry filed a court challenge to new rules over so-called bomb trains. They say the regulations are unproven or would be too costly and that they need more time. The government issued the safety rules to reduce the risk of catastrophic explosions when crude oil trains derail. The most recent case was last week in North Dakota. Oil trains have derailed twice in the past year and a half in Philadelphia without exploding.
Fire crews in Chester County battled a two-alarm blaze at a strip mall. Firefighters were called to North Park Plaza on Wallace Avenue in Downingtown yesterday evening. Flames were shooting out of a florist shop and quickly spread to 4 other businesses, and then a roof collapsed. No one was hurt. There was delayed response because nearby fire crews were already out on a call. No word yet on what started the fire.
4:26 now and still ahead. More on the deadly derailment in the Port Richmond section of Philadelphia.
At least 5 people died when the Amtrak train headed to New York City derailed and tipped over. Chopper 6 is live over that scene. The wreckage is still there. We'll have full coverage when Action News comes back.
It is an absolute disastrous mess. Never seen anything like this in my life.
A chilling description by Mayor Michael Nutter in the wake of last night's deadly Amtrak disaster.
This is a view of the aftermath live from Chopper 6 HD. Rail cars are flipped over, others torn apart. Right now, we know at least 5 people are dead. Dozens more are injured. The NTSB will arrive at the scene this morning to begin its investigation into the deadly Amtrak train derailment. We have live team coverage coming up. David.
All right, guys, we are looking at some cloud cover this morning that's going to quickly disperse. We're going to wind up with a sunny, windy day. We do have a fire weather watch, however, in South Jersey, and I wouldn't be surprised if red flag warnings go up later on across the entire region. Low humidity, breezy conditions, dry forest fuels, an enhanced chance of brush fires starting and spreading, so report something if you see it smoldering. 63 right now in Philadelphia, 60 in Wilmington, already a bit breezy across the region, so maybe a hood with the kids on the way to school. A windy Wednesday. And it's going to be cooler than yesterday. You can see by 8 o'clock we're at 58, 65 by noon, and your high today is going to be about 69 with some areas perhaps creeping up to 70 degrees later this afternoon around 3 o'clock. We do have a gradual increase in temperatures over the next several days. Karen, I'll have details coming up in the AccuWeather 7-day.
We'll take it from here. Thanks, David.
All right, and hundreds of firefighters and police officials are still there on the scene of that Amtrak derailment right at this moment, and federal officials will be arriving there later this morning to start their investigation, asking what caused this crash.
Here's what we know so far. At least 5 people are dead. 65 passengers were taken to numerous hospitals in Philadelphia. 6 of those patients are in critical condition.
Now, this is train 188. It was headed from Washington, D.C. up to New York City, a regular route. It derailed in the Port Richmond section around 9:30 last night. 6 cars in the engine, all off the tracks. Amtrak has closed the Northeast Corridor service between Philadelphia and New York. Karen will have that full traffic update for you in just a few minutes. But for now, let's turn to Chad Perdelli. He's live near the scene of the derailment in Port Richmond. Good morning, Chad.
Good morning, Tam. The chaotic hustle from late last night has been replaced by the methodical step-by-step recovery operation. We're about 200 yards from the wreckage. You can see some of the flashing lights there behind me. I spoke to police a short time ago. They tell me that 2 of the dead have been removed from the mangled metal here in the past couple of hours. Crews right now are waiting for a crane to be brought in to lift some of those rail cars to get at least 2 more of the dead. Of course, this is a devastating tragedy that happened last night. As we move forward, the focus now goes to mourning the dead, and the focus is also on the cause of the investigation.
Passengers say the derailment came without warning. Then it sounded like shopping carts smashing into one another.
To be honest, I was just watching, playing with my phone, and suddenly the train went dark, and then it seems like someone has slammed the brake and everything starts shaking.
Passengers emerged from the twisted metal, startled and stunned, many with gaping wounds and blood-stained clothes. Train 188, bound from Washington, D.C. to New York, derailed in Port Richmond just after 9:30 p.m. Emergency responders flooded the scene. 65 of the 243 aboard the train were transported to area hospitals. Triage centers were set up outside the roughly half-dozen hospitals to deal with the wounded.
65 transports, still 6 considered critical, and unfortunately confirmed 5 individuals deceased.
The incident has been placed under control, so we're starting the family reunification process. We're working with Amtrak, we're working with our hospitals, we're working with all of our human services agencies.
So far, the cause of the derailment is still under investigation. The Department of Homeland Security is on scene, and the National Transportation Safety Board will lead the investigation.
NTSB, as I mentioned earlier, has already deployed a team. They are on their way to Philadelphia with a full team with equipment.
Governor Tom Wolf arrived from Harrisburg and said his thoughts and prayers are with all impacted. He called it a devastating situation.
Anything the state can do to help, we stand ready to do that. The state police are here to help.
And it's still unclear how many of the injured or dead are from the Philadelphia area. Mayor Michael Nutter says it's likely most are from Washington, D.C. or New York. Those looking for loved ones who haven't been able to get in touch with them are urged to call Amtrak. I'm live in Port Richmond. Chad Perdelli, Channel 6 Action News.
Thank you, Chad. Action News reporter Catherine Scott is live at Hahnemann University Hospital, where doctors are treating many of those injured passengers. Catherine.
Matt, more than half the people on that train were injured in some capacity. Dozens of people were taken here to Hahnemann University Hospital. I did just get off the phone with a spokesperson here at Hahnemann. She told me that they saw about 30 patients, 30 people that were on that train. 4 people were admitted. The majority of people that came here had minor injuries like scrapes or fractures, and doctors are working on the passengers right now.
No, it happened in seconds.
Passengers described the chaos, the terror as Amtrak Northeast Regional Train 188 derailed in Port Richmond around 9:30 last night. 243 people were on board the train bound for New York. Some were trapped. Others climbed through windows to escape.
There seemed to be minor injuries on the back of the train. The rough part was in the front.
This was declared a level 3 mass casualty incident. The fire department says 18 medic units were brought on scene. 6 people were taken to the hospital in critical condition. Some nearby residents described the destruction.
You can see the whole tracks, about 4 or 5 cars that were laying on their side. And there was about one of the cars that we seen where it was really badly damaged. It was basically ripped in half.
Those with less serious injuries could be seen at the hospitals climbing out of police wagons or exiting SEPTA buses, some toting luggage, others dirtier with ripped clothing. Several people were carried from the train on stretchers. Others were able to walk on their own but were limping or appeared unsteady.
There are so many people worse off than me right now.
And again, the latest numbers from authorities, we're hearing at least 140 people were taken to area hospitals to be treated or evaluated. 6 people were in critical condition and at least 5 people have died. Of course, we are here at Hahnemann. We'll give you any updates as we get them. We are live in Center City. Catherine Scott, Channel 6 Action News.
Okay, Catherine, thank you for that. And the Red Cross has set up an emergency shelter at Webster Elementary on Frankfurt Avenue for passengers who didn't need hospital treatment. They've got counselors available there. There's also a charging station where passengers can go and charge up their social devices so they can be in touch with loved ones. Amtrak also opened a hotline that people can call to find out about family and friends who might have been on the train. Here's that number, 1-800-523-9101.
This is having a major impact on mass transit. Let's go to Karen Rogers for more on that. Karen.
Yeah, we want to go over what's running and not running here. So if you're trying to take Amtrak along the Northeast Corridor between Philadelphia and New York City, all train service canceled for the foreseeable future. However, between D.C. and Philadelphia, between New York City and Boston, running on a modified schedule. So it's running, but not the same times that you would expect. New Jersey Transit is honoring Amtrak tickets between Trenton and New York City, so you can take New Jersey Transit instead. This is also affecting SEPTA, the regional rails. The Trenton line will not run today, likely throughout the day, and it's possible it may not even run through the end of the week as they continue the investigation and also seeing the integrity of the rails themselves and anything that needs to be fixed. The Chestnut Hill East line is running, so that's a possible alternate because the Chestnut Hill West line is not running. That's canceled, so also affecting SEPTA regional rails here. Throughout the area, if you're driving driving through Port Richmond. Frankfurt Avenue at this point still officially closed between Torresdale Avenue and Castor Avenue. This is also affecting traffic on Pike Street, Wheatchef Lane, Bukia Street, Sedgley, Butler, Corral, Sepavia, all affecting traffic blocked in the area of Frankfurt Avenue in this area of Port Richmond. You can stick to Frankfurt, you can stick to Aramingo as an alternate to that, Richmond or I-95 to avoid the problems that we're seeing on the roads as well as the rails. Matt and Tam.
Thank you, Karen. Action News coverage of the deadly train derailment continues on air all morning long and online.
It's now 4:39 and we continue to get new developments on the deadly derailment.
The NTSB will be arriving today to try to figure out what caused so many cars on this Amtrak train to suddenly fall off the tracks. Karen.
We're live right now in Port Richmond. I-95 moving fine right now as you head towards Center City. But we're going to have an update on how all of the train derailment is affecting the roads, affecting the rails, when Action News comes right back.
442 and Chopper 6 is live over our breaking news story that we will be following for you all morning long and throughout the day and beyond. This Amtrak train disaster. You see one of the mangled cars on its side here in the Port Richmond section of Philadelphia. 5 people dead at this point. Dozens of people are injured. We have several reporters gathering information for you, and we'll have live updates throughout the morning.
Let's go on over to Karen Rogers, because another issue here is this is going to severely affect commuting, not just today, but for a while.
Absolutely. And details on just how long, unclear at this point, as a whole investigation just beginning. So between Philadelphia and New York City, you cannot take Amtrak. The Northeast Corridor not running. It is canceled and unclear when it's going to start running again. However, between D.C. and Philadelphia, you can take Amtrak. It's running on a modified schedule, as well as between New York City and Boston. You can take New Jersey Transit because they are honoring Amtrak tickets between Trenton and New York City. So in that area, you can take New Jersey Transit if you get to Trenton. This is affecting the Trenton line with SEPTA Regional Rails as well. Trenton line is canceled, and SEPTA is saying it's likely canceled through the day, possibly canceled throughout the week. So something we're just going to need to watch as this develops. Chestnut Hill West line also canceled. Chestnut Hill East line is running. It's on time. You can take that as a possible alternate. So it's also affecting people trying to drive around through Port Richmond. So Frankfurt Avenue was shut down between Torresdale and Castor. Instead of Frankfurt in this area, you want to really watch for your alternates. You can take Aramingo, Richmond Street, or I-95. Also affecting a number of streets in and around the area, all intersecting Frankfurt with Pike, Wheatchef, Bukia, Sedgley, Butler, Corral, and Sepavia. So watch for all of those local detours affected by this in Port Richmond. And also looking at the big picture otherwise, we're not seeing any other issues. That's obviously the big story and what we're following right now. Looking at the temperatures right now as you're heading out the door with 63 degrees. It's a more comfortable day, low humidity, and a high of 71, Matt and Tam.
Okay, thank you, Karen. And Erin O'Hearn is continuing our team coverage of the derailment disaster. She's live at the big board. Good morning, Erin.
Good morning, Tam. And these images are frightening, disturbing, and shocking. When you think about how massive these trains are and how solid they appear, it almost seems impossible that the cars could end up like this. And when you look at this picture here, I think if you think of a tin can and crushing a tin can, that's almost what it looks like. I mean, it's just completely mangled. And then if we go to this image, the car is completely upside down. And you can see the crime tape up here. The underneath the train is totally exposed. This image of the workers who responded on the scene right away along with the first responders. And if you think about the physical task they have ahead of them over the next week, and also the emotional task of dealing with all these injured riders, it's a really arduous task they have in front of them. And certainly we all feel for their job ahead of them in the week. We also want you to take a listen to this sound from a 911 call from the scene after the crash happened.
We're going to classify this as a mass casualty incident. That you immediately notify Amtrak to de-energize these lines, shut down the entire corridor. By order of the incident commander, strike out the second alarm. By order of Battalion 10, the incident commander, strike out that second alarm. On top of the initial 5 additional medic units, I'm going to need another 5 for a total of 10 medic units.
You heard him, 10 medic units there. Now, Governor Tom Wolf also released a statement saying in part, quote, for those who lost their lives, for those who were injured and the families of all involved in this situation is devastating. I want to sincerely thank our first responders for their brave and quick action. Wolf also said he is closely monitoring the situation and is in contact with local authorities. Back to you guys.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Yes, and thanks to those first responders who rushed to that scene. It is 4:47 and coming up why Amtrak could stand to lose federal funding dollars next year.
And the death toll in Nepal is expected to rise from that second major earthquake. David.
Well, I was expecting a red flag warning to be posted this morning, and it has been across the state of New Jersey. This means an enhanced chance of brush fires starting and spreading. If you see any smoldering in the woods, make sure you dial 911 right away. And I'd be careful of this in South Jersey, or excuse me, in Pennsylvania and Delaware as well, because we also have similar dry forest conditions and breezy, low humidity air in place. We'll be back with how to dress the kids today and your day planner forecast. I'll also get you travelers to the airport.
The deadly train derailment in Port Richmond will undoubtedly put the spotlight on rail safety. And in fact, a U.S. House Appropriations Committee is scheduled to debate proposed transportation funding in D.C. today. In the current 2016 proposed budget, Amtrak stands to lose more than $1 billion in funding. The last time Congress passed an Amtrak bill aimed at infrastructure and rail safety was back in 2008.
And we want to have more on people trying to take the rails, Amtrak and New Jersey Transit. Let's start right now with Amtrak here. The Northeast Corridor between Philadelphia and New York City not running. Obviously, we have everything canceled, and at this point, we don't know for how long. Between Washington and Philadelphia, it is running, but on a modified schedule. Amtrak also running between New York City and Boston, but again on a modified schedule here. You can take New Jersey Transit. They will be honoring Amtrak tickets between Trenton and New York City. SEPTA is also affected by this. So SEPTA Regional Rails, the Trenton line will not run. And we just got an update from SEPTA a minute ago. They're saying it's not running likely throughout the day. It's possible it may not even be running the rest of the week. So we're watching for that. The magnitude of this really affecting us for days to come. Chestnut Hill West line is not running currently, and SEPTA said they'll give us an update during the day to see if that begins to run, but not running right now. Chestnut Hill East line is a possible alternate for you because that is running right now, David.
Temperatures in the 50s and low 60s, so we're dressing the kids warmly, Karen. A sweatshirt in the morning, maybe a jacket in the afternoon. Some areas could get up close to 70. Here's how it's going to go at the bus stop and at the rail station. Those trains that are running today, 59 degrees by 9, 65 by noon, and a high of 69 degrees by 3 o'clock. A fair amount of sunshine overall. Strong blustery winds gusting as high as 35 miles per hour. On the national map, your eyes are drawn to this area of the country around New Mexico and western Texas, and that, in fact, is the seat of potential severe weather today, from Dallas down to areas just to the west of Houston. A little bit of a blip in the northwest. Everybody else not looking at any severe thunderstorms. At the airport today, we've got green aircraft, so if you're flying, no problems, and no precipitation reported in any of our most commonly traveled destinations. Matt and Tam?
Thank you, David. Happening today, jurors are expected to begin deliberations in the murder trial of a Bucks County exterminator who was charged with strangling a pediatrician from Children's Hospital. Police say Jason Smith confessed to killing Melissa Ketenuti because she insulted his work at her Center City home. Smith later recanted. Police found Ketenuti's strangled and burned body in her row home on the 1700 block of Naudain Street in 2013. Flames devoured a popular restaurant in the Lehigh Valley. They broke out at the Buckeye Tavern on Brookside Road in Lower Macungie Township last night. Fortunately, no injuries were reported. Still no word on what sparked this fire.
Today, officials in Nepal ordered people to leave earthquake-damaged buildings. The evacuation orders came a day after the quake killed at least 65 people in a countryside town that has become a hub for rescuers and humanitarian aid in the wake of April's massive quake that killed more than 8,000 people. Also, a U.S. Marine helicopter delivering aid in Nepal has been reported missing. Defense officials say there are no indications that it crashed. Let's go over to Chopper 6 live HD. As you can see over the scene here in Port Richmond where that train derailed. You see the mess that is left behind. Trains off the track. We'll be right back with team coverage.
Come on, man.
I got you, okay? Okay? Keep crawling, okay?
Where am I crawling to? Crawl forward, sir.
Keep crawling. Keep crawling
Keep
this way.
crawling.
Okay.
Come on, man.
I got you, okay? Okay? Keep crawling, okay? Where am I crawling to?
You can hear the scene
Crawl
from
forward,
inside
sir.
one of those train
Keep
cars.
crawling,
People
keep
trying to
crawling.
help each other.
Come on, man.
Responders trying to help people get out. Action News got this viewer video from inside the train. It's from Yamin Alwood and All World, and fans of the local hip hop scene might recognize that name. He's a music producer who works with The Roots. All World had his cell phone rolling as he and other passengers were trying to get off that train. He himself suffered minor injuries.
At least 5 people are dead and dozens were injured in the Amtrak train disaster in Philadelphia's Port Richmond section. The train was traveling from Washington, D.C. to New York City last night when several cars derailed. 6 of the injured are in critical condition. Investigators from the NTSB are headed to the scene today. Amtrak says there will be no service between New York and Philadelphia until further notice. New Jersey Transit will honor Amtrak tickets between New York City and Trenton. We will be right back with live team coverage of this disaster.